In the same way that I said Vandy going to Tuscaloosa and losing the way they did almost gave me more confidence in Vandy, I could almost say the same thing about Missouri for how they went on the road, had all this adversity, yet still were in a very close battle with a very good Vanderbilt team. I don't think that their season's over by any stretch.
It's Mizzou That's Who here on KC Sports Network. Tucker Franklin hanging out with Maggie Johnson. Got a super good episode for you for the Mizzou bye week. Alyssa Lang of the SEC Network joining us for this podcast. First pod back since Missouri drops to Vanderbilt. Maggie had boots on the ground. Maggie was there. Maggie, how you feeling? I mean, we're recording this on Thursday. Pretty removed from the game, but I told you before we started recording, like that this game still is bugging me. It's still sitting with me.
It's bugging me a lot. And obviously had a great time in Nashville. There were so many Mizzou fans there. Obviously, I told you last week that they were doing the alumni stuff at Tin Roof.
Yeah.
I mean, it was packed. It jam-packed. It was on the second floor, but all Mizzou fans on the first floor. Yeah. Like, it was great. Mizzou fans truly showed out. I was walking through lot 2, which is like Vanderbilt's like popular tailgating lot. And I heard like these Vanderbilt fans be like, oh gosh, there's a lot of Missouri fans here. And that was like represented in the stadium as well. So it was great. It's just so frustrating to shoot yourself in the foot in a game where you clearly were the better team. I mean, and it's the second, I don't know if we're the better team, but statistically we beat Alabama, right? I feel like watching this game, yes. We played, yes. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how I felt in Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia was a non-factor in that game.
Correct. He
was a non-factor in that game. We let, he's the person that's supposed to win that game for them, right? And he didn't. And that's what's so stressful, is that we just held them to everything we needed to do, which we talk about with Alyssa here in a little bit, held them to everything that we needed to do. And we just couldn't make a 29-yard field goal. And we couldn't score on 4th and 1 or 3rd and 2, both times. Right. So and it's the way that we didn't score, not giving the ball to your All-American running back. So it's just very frustrating to have these types of games that are so winnable and just not winning. And the most frustrating part about that is that was us in 2022. Mm-hmm. In 2023, we found ways to win. Yep. In 2024, we found ways to win. So why now in 2025 are we not able to find those ways to win? It's the only word I can use is frustrating.
I think that's a great way to just kind of encapsulate it. I know there's a lot of people frustrated too with play calling with Kirby Moore. There's a lot of people upset with Kirby Moore. It seems like every time that I see something mentioned about Missouri, it's about fire Kirby Moore and the responses. I think that's a little misdirected. I don't think Kirby Moore has been. No, there's certainly things Kirby Moore can do better. I don't want you to say that. I don't want you to hear this and hear me say that like Kirby Moore's been perfect. Obviously, against Alabama, he should have ran the ball a little bit more. They had plenty of time to run the ball and get the run game established. That certainly would have helped. I think that he did certainly a good job settling Zoller's in. Talk about it again with Alyssa here in a little bit. But I really thought, your playbook's going to shrink when you have a backup quarterback, nevertheless, like a freshman quarterback and a third string quarterback, really at that, coming into the game. But they were able to use the running game a little bit more. The offense was a little bit more effective, well, in between the 20s, I should say, because apparently when he got in the red zone, it was tough. And I know a lot of people want to kill Kirby Moore for the play call on 4th down that got Bo Perbula hurt. I'm not upset about that play call because that play call works a lot, right? That play works a lot. I know Mizzou runs it a lot. It works. Perbula's a running quarterback, right? I'm more upset about the 3rd down play call where he calls a pass when if you're going to go for it on 3rd down, probably run the ball, right? Or on 4th down, run the ball on 3rd down. I think that probably should have been a run play, and that probably should have been a better call. So I'm not killing him for that play call on 4th down. Maggie, how many times have we seen that play on 4th down? Like, you knew that play was coming.
You knew it was coming. You saw it so much with Brady Cook, and I think he executed it flawlessly. I don't know if Bo has that same acting ability, that same, skill to sell it out. But no, I mean, nobody was mad about it when Brady ran it, right? Because of how well he ran it. But
people are only mad about that play when he's hurt, because he's hurt. That's the only reason people are mad about that play.
Because he didn't score and he's hurt. And you get it to an extent, but you can't be that mad because it has worked. I don't.
Right. It's again frustrating because they're doing things that have worked for them that usually are very good. And Maggie, I think, like kind of thinking about that a little bit of just like, I don't understand why they've kind of taken a step back and finishing these games. They don't have a kicker. I think that probably plays a really big part into it, is they do not at all trust their kicker. I was going to say within 30 yards, but they let him kick a 29-yarder and he missed it. And so it's like, okay, we have to get to at least the 15 before we even think about attempting a field goal. That shrinks the field a whole lot. It grows the field, I should say, rather a whole lot. And they still don't even feel confident in him taking a 29-yard field goal. You don't feel confident in him at all. And I think that has really been. You talk about Sam Horn getting hurt. You talk about Bo getting hurt. I mean, look, Brett Norfleet got hurt too. Yearly thing for Brett at this point, unfortunately. Separated shoulder. We'll see if he can even come back for the A&M game. He would be a great guy to have on the field for that game against Texas A&M. If
we used him, like, that's another thing to me is I'm like, why do we not use? It's an insane mismatch against almost any defense, and we don't use it. I was watching some podcast this week about so back to the kicking situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mizzou's backup kicker, who is our kicker right now, who came in, I'm pretty sure, like, from somewhere else.
He's a preferred walk-on, I think is what he was. But I don't know where he was prior. Yeah,
but true freshman, right?
Yeah,
so we're the only school in the SEC where our backup kicker is a true freshman. And I'm like, how are you not prepared? And I know a lot of people have their issues with Eric Link and have for a while, who is our special teams coach, if you didn't know his name. And I don't blame them, because this is becoming our special teams is like ranked 113th or something like that. It's crazy. Really it's really bad. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason that it should be that bad after however many years that you've been at Mizzou.
For sure. I do think the injuries play a large part of it, right? You don't anticipate your kicker. Blake Craig, very good kicker. Like, that is very true.
Great, very good, yes.
Who knows if he'll be the same kicker after getting a torn ACL? Like, that's going to be a huge conversation for us to probably have this offseason and everything. But disappointing for the kid and everything. But that has clearly hindered this team. Like, they win. If they have a kicker, they win against Vandy. They're undefeated right now. I feel confident if those games play out like they do, and if they have a kicker, they win. They missed a field goal at the against Vandy that would have given them the lead,
and changed the momentum. That game, 100%. That's the issue with missing the kick. I think it was still a tie game at that point, right? It was still 10-10, I believe. Mm-hmm. You just make that, and your momentum is through the charts, like off the charts, whatever.
Right. They forced a 3-and-out after that, by the way.
What?
They forced a 3-and-out after that, by the way.
Our defense played amazing.
Yeah,
our defense played so great. I mean, anytime you hold Diego Pavia to 8 carries for 20 yards, 10 for 19 passing for 129 yards and an interception. I mean, your defense played great. That goes back to the frustration thing again. It was like, you're wasting this amazing defense, who most of them are gone. Most of them will be gone, especially on that defensive line side. And you're just wasting this, and you have so much talent. And it's hard to, I think the reason that you and I are so stuck on this game is it's hard for us to focus on a future, on what the future of this team looks like, because you're facing a very good A&M team. The last 3 teams haven't had their season go as well as they'd want, but I mean, Oklahoma still only has 1 loss. So it's not like they're not bad by any means, especially when John Mateer is, on. So I think a lot of it has to do with us, is it's hard for us to really visualize where this team is going.
I think so. It is so hard to with Zoller. Zoller's such a big unknown. Now, there's reports of we talk a little bit about Prabila's injury with Alyssa, but it's not as bad as it potentially could have been. So, there's been, I I can't remember. Was it Matt Zenitz who reported something about him potentially being able to return for this year? But I don't think it's likely.
He tweeted out like really quickly that Bo was out, and then he kind of came back and he was like, "Oh, maybe he won't be for the full season."
Yeah.
I was like, did we even wait to get any information before we're putting these out? Oh.
Also, the fact that Vanderbilt put him on a cart to take him off the field and then put him in a wheelchair is actually insane. Like, what? Leave a different way if you got to move him to a wheelchair. Like, you can't. You're telling me you can't take a gator down a tunnel? What is that? Like, they moved him maybe 15 yards off the field, and then we're like, all right, get into a wheelchair.
Yeah, he was almost as far down the field as you can get because it was a 4th and 1. So.
Yes. Then they just they kind of basically scraped him off the field, and then they're like, all right, get into this wheelchair now. What are we doing? It's great. I saw that. I was just like, what in the world are we doing? Hilarious. Yeah, but the injuries shouldn't be as bad as what was originally anticipated. Look, and I think Drinkwitz talked about this too on the teleconference, because I don't think he had press conference. I don't think he had a Tiger Talk. I don't think that happened this week because they're on bye week, right? But in the SEC teleconference, he kind of talked about like, hey, we're not going to change how we call plays. We're not going to change our philosophy because of injuries. Like, is it unfortunate that both of their quarterbacks got hurt on quarterback design runs? Yeah, but both of those guys are are mobile guys, are guys that, have done that. So it's not like you can't really say, now we can't do quarterback runs ever anymore, right? Then you can become really one-dimensional with your quarterback. Mm-hmm. Now, Zollers is coming back from a pretty catastrophic knee injury his senior year of high school. He wasn't really ever known as more of a mobile guy. He was obviously, his arm talent is clear.
Oh, yeah. Well, he has a higher passing ceiling than either of the quarterbacks there on our roster above him.
Also, shout out to Jude James for scoring a touchdown. Like, that Jude James to Matt Zoller was like, well, I think we're going to be seeing this a lot.
I know. Yeah, no, that was great. And I mean, truly, like, that brought back that momentum that you were kind of lacking a little bit. It's just too bad that you had that situation where obviously Matt Zoller's got that intentional grounding call, which resulted in a 10-second runoff. And what happens?
Very freshman play. Yeah,
very freshman play. And that's why you haven't even honestly heard a lot of people talk about it, because I think that's exactly how they saw it. They just saw it as a freshman play. They saw it as something that happens when you're not used to SEC D linemen running at you. You wish you could have that 10 seconds back. Like in
10 seconds probably would have helped, especially if you catch that, they call it down at the 1. That 10 seconds would have helped.
Yeah.
You're out of timeouts though, so you got to kind of hurry. Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to hurry. But you still have these other things that throughout the game that made a difference. I mean, I personally think the 80-yard touchdown by Vanderbilt should have been negated and called back. There was pretty obvious holding on that one. I think the tripping calls were kind of ridiculous. I don't know what you expect someone to do that's like on the ground. Also very clear offsides.
That wasn't called. I forgot about that one.
That wasn't
the first tripping I understood, because it's like, okay, yeah, you can't really throw your leg up in the air. You can't do that. I get that one, which was a huge gain, which the second one I was just like, this is stupid. Who calls tripping?
Right. I can't remember the last time I was at a game where tripping was called. So yeah, it's unfortunate. All these things kind of, it was like the perfect storm that worked against us and worked for Vandy, but you have to find a way to just mentally get yourself back ready to play a very, very good A&M team.
Yeah, both teams on bye week this week. Lots of stuff happening around the SEC and college football just in general. We obviously know Eli Drinkwitz's name is going to be brought up in, I think, literally every single head coaching vacancy that comes open. I think that if, like, UCM comes open, they're going to be like, Eli Drinkwitz. Maybe we can do Eli Drinkwitz. It seems like Eli Drinkwitz is the hot name for literally every single school. Since the last time we recorded, LSU canned Brian Kelly. He's gone. He's out of there. They said we would rather pay him $54 million to get away from our program than not have him involved at all. An insane decision. I think that's the second highest buyout, right? Because Jimbo's $73 million.
Jimbo's was insane.
Nuts.
because James Franklin's was high, but not Brian Kelly high. But here's my question about that one. Is LSU the only open that if anybody's offered it, you just don't say no? I don't know how people say no. I don't see how anybody says no to LSU. And now Mizzou fans don't freak out. I don't think Drink's even in the top 5 for this job. I doubt he's even that high, I just don't know how you get offered that job, no matter who you are, no matter what you're getting paid, and you say no because you've already seen it. LSU had a player commit. They had a player commit like hours after losing Brian Kelly. Yeah. And what did they say? You don't commit to the coach. You're committing to LSU. I want to play for LSU. I think you have everything you need to be successful there. I don't think Brian Kelly should have probably ever left Notre Dame to go to LSU. I don't think it was a good cultural fit. I don't think he really tried that hard to really buy into that culture. But I just don't know how somebody says no to LSU. I would struggle saying no to LSU.
I think the only way you say no to LSU is because their executive structure is a shit show right now.
Yeah.
We have the governor trying to call the shots. You got an AD who is, I guess, technically still the AD. I mean,
didn't the governor say that he's not letting the AD pick the coach?
Yeah. Then why is he around? Like, fire him already then, I guess. That would be the only reason you say no to LSU. Like, the brand of LSU is just like so huge, right? It's so big. Do they actually have a president right now too at the university? I think that's also something.
I don't think that they do.
LSU president searched down to 4 applicants for upcoming interviews. They don't have a president right now. They don't have a president. The governor is involved, I guess, because they don't have a president. They currently have a lame duck AD who they're mad at because he signed Brian Kelly to the contract that he did, that they had to pay $54 million to buy him out. That would be the only reason I think you say no to LSU. That would be it. But again, as you mentioned, the brand is so strong.
It's so strong. And you can win there. You know that you can win there. You have the donors, you have the facilities, you have the environment. You can 100% win there. Here's the only reason I would say no is, like you said, the infrastructure right now. What have you built up at the school that you're at? Is it worth going right now? Or is it worth waiting? That's how I feel about Florida, to be honest with you. I'm like, is it worth going right now where the boosters are the ones that are kind of running the program? And I don't know. Nobody knows except these coaches what they're looking for in a head coaching job. It's just, like I said, it would just be hard for me to say no to LSU, but I don't know if I would want to be in charge of rebuilding everything.
I think Florida's an interesting one because I've been stress reading all of these boards, right, of like what people say. I usually try to only go to and read the stuff from people who are like the staff, right? You can go to the tab where like the staff people say stuff. That's where I go. I've been stress reading the boards. The LSU hot board had Drinkwitz on there, and they're just be like, "Oh, he knows Blake Baker." Is like how their connection was. Just like, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a strong.
Yeah, I don't know if there's great blood there. I don't know.
Right. We'll have to see. But it's going to be really interesting. Like Lane Kiffin, he's got to be number one for all of these schools. I know that Florida, when I was reading the Florida board, they said that like it sounds like the boosters at Florida want Lane Kiffin. Like they will do what it takes to take Lane Kiffin. That makes sense. But if you're Lane Kiffin, you'll let Florida and LSU get into a bidding war for you. You'll let that happen. And it's also interesting, too, with Kiffin's daughter dating Whit Weeks. I mean, inside job. Truthfully, was it an inside job to get Lane Kiffin to LSU? Maybe. Who knows? We'll have to see. Whit Weeks just like also hasn't played, which is kind of crazy. He's played like 1.5 games since Sunday.
You know what's also kind of crazy, too, is that we're looking at all these jobs that are open. We're looking at Arkansas, LSU, and Florida. But odds are high that Auburn's going to be open.
Right.
I would, if Kentucky doesn't do something, I would be shocked as well. Like it's time. You got to say goodbye to Stoops. There's a potential of possibly 5 teams, and
not counting Penn State either.
Oh, yeah. And that's not with Penn State. That's obviously not with like Virginia Tech or UCLA or whatever. But just 5 SEC teams.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's all. I don't worry about a couple of them, but
what if
some of them?
So what if Lane Kiffin just like leaves USC and go, or not Lane Kiffin, sorry. I was thinking of old Lane Kiffin. What if he just leaves
Lincoln Riley?
What if Lincoln Riley leaves USC and like then USC comes open? That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. But where you think that Lincoln Riley would leave to go to one of the SEC openings?
Yeah. Like Florida, or maybe if LSU calls Lincoln Riley's got to be like, okay, yeah, I'll be there in a little bit.
Yeah. Here's my thing, though, is that Lincoln Riley struggled at Oklahoma, struggled out of blue blood to get it done, you know?
USC.
He's not been that great at USC either. I don't think that's been like a grass is greener type of thing. So is he really like that big of a candidate? Like, would you really think that? I don't know. I get the appeal of Lincoln Riley, but he hasn't been doing anything that I would say is incredibly special at the programs that he's working at. And I feel like in order to get one of those SEC jobs, they would need to see more than what they've seen from Lincoln Riley.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The carousel is going to be interesting because now you've hit the spot of extension season, right? We've hit Matt Rule has a 2-year extension added onto his contract, probably upping the buyout money. I would assume if he would go somewhere else.
And I think his went up, so now it's at like 2031 or 2032. So it wasn't like it wasn't
a huge extension, truthfully. And from what I was reading from the Nebraska board, they don't have a lot of more money to give him. Like they're already kind of just like tapped out.
It was funny though too. It said like an incentive for him was for every year he makes the playoff, he gets like $1 million raise. I'm like, well, they don't have to worry about
safe about that one. That one's safe. You can keep that one in the bank. Whatever works. But like, here's another interesting one. Like, does Saban come back? Like,
no, I think
Urban.
They're both pushing it in age. And also Saban said Saban said the whole time that the reason that he didn't want to do this anymore is because NIL. Well, NIL's not going away. It's just getting bigger. So I personally think that he's kind of living the dream right now. He gets to do his college football Saturdays and then golf during the week. And he's still a very big part of the University of Alabama. Like that's still Saban Field that they're playing on, you know.
True.
He's running a lot of things there, but I just don't see him leaving Alabama, the creme de la creme of college football programs, to go to another school and have to rebuild.
Yeah.
I think that he's done in his rebuilding stages. I think he's happy and he gets to leave with this legacy that is Nick Saban, the head coach of the University of Alabama.
True. I mean, he did win a national title at LSU, so that could be like a little bit of a homecoming back to LSU. I think there's like an emotional connection there as well. I know he said on game day, just like, I can't let Miss Terry hear the numbers, which is very funny. Very good. But like, look, I mean, there's a lot of interesting other coaches out there too. I know John Summerall's been thrown around there. Golish at USF, like
Lashley at SMU is a big one.
Right. So like, there's a bunch of other coaches. Like Drinkwitz isn't the only one. I mean, he's apparently does some gambling services that I'm not going to mention because they're not DraftKings Sportsbook. They have Drinkwitz is the odds-on favorite to go there. I mean, to Florida. So like, I mean that. I don't really buy that one. Florida's starting petitions to not hire Eli Drinkwitz. Yeah. So I can't
take everything you see. Take everything you see with those gambling ones with a grain of salt for sure. And like we've talked about so many times on this podcast, Drink is so petty. You think that Drink wants to go somewhere where their fans are like that? That's why I've even said, I'm on Twitter. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, let's not keep tagging him in things and telling him to leave. I mean, come on. Like, let's just wait it out. And at the end of the day, we're still Mizzou fans. Like, we're still Mizzou fans. And you can't control everything that happens, but we also need to remember Mizzou's not really a stepping stone football program. It's been a very long time since a football coach has left the University of Mizzou on their own accord to go somewhere else. So let's chill out a little bit and just see what happens. You can freak out when it happens.
Right. And then I was going to have the conversation about like, who would it be if he left? But I don't want to have that conversation yet because I don't want to think.
I don't even know. Some people are going to have to, all these programs think that they're stealing the biggest, baddest coach. People are going to have to get coaches from Group of Five schools. It's
right.
just,
yeah, like,
it's just the way that it is. They're not all going to be able to snatch each other's Power Four coaches. There are going to be some big names from those. Maybe big, like even Big 12, I feel like that's an upgrade to go to the Big 10 or the SEC. So, you've got like Kenny Dillingham and guys like that possibilities. But
Kenny's a great one,
yeah. But I think a lot of it, you're going to have to go to have that success with those Group of Five coaches.
Well, look, I mean, you can do that. Missouri's done it with a Group of Five coach, right? That came here from multiple. When you talk about Pinkel as well. Yeah, that's a good point about Missouri not really being a stepping stone university. I mean, look, Missouri's had really 3 coaches in my lifetime when I really think about it, with Pinkel and Odom and Drinkwitz now. So it's kind of crazy that the University of Missouri's head coach has been thinking about as like for some of the top jobs in the country. We'll see how it goes. I know I tweeted out, and Maggie, my thoughts and feelings on Coach Drinkwitz. I think I've made them very clear. I would die for Eli Drinkwitz. And there's a lot of people that are like, would he die for you? And I'm like, I don't care if he would. Like, I'm fully in the cult of Eli Drinkwitz. I think he's perfect for Missouri. I don't want him to go anywhere else. I want him to die in Columbia, Missouri is where I want him to. Totally. Maybe that makes me selfish, but I don't know.
No. And that's the same thing though. People have to remember that. Like you're saying that about Drink, and other people will be like, well, I would die for the University of Missouri. Well, the same thing. Like the University of Missouri, it's like a college football game, right? You love this team so much, they don't always love you back. That's just the way that sports work in general. So we've just got to wait and see what happens, and I hope that whatever happens in favor of the University of Missouri.
We'll hope. But look, we got a conversation with Alyssa Lang. I want to keep that waiting any longer. Alyssa was phenomenal. Great conversation with her. We talk a lot about the same things that we did here, but she gives a lot more in-depth look into Missouri's future coming up with the last 4 games remaining. Got a kind of a gauntlet here coming up as the SEC season winds down, and kind of playoff look for SEC teams as well. A little carousel, a little Vandy talk, but I really enjoyed having Alyssa on the podcast. You mentioned something off the top there I didn't realize. She's the first female guest we've had on the podcast.
Yeah, I know. This is like a bucket list for me. I mean, obviously,
she's great.
If you're a female that talks about sports, like, who Alyssa Lang is, and you look up to some people like Alyssa Lang and Aaron Andrews and things like that. So very, very exciting to have her on the show and to get to meet her.
Well, let's get to it. SEC Network's Alyssa Lang. We'll take a break first, and then when we come back on the other side, it'll be Maggie and I with Alyssa talking Mizzou and all SEC. We'll see you after this.
Looking to remodel your home and in search of a top-quality company to do the job? Contact Elenco. Since 1986, Elenco has been the remodeler of choice for customers throughout Kansas and Missouri. As a family-owned and operated business, Elenco provides customers top-quality products and unbeatable service, straight from their family to yours. From windows and doors to siding, insulation, and bathroom renovations, there's no need that Elenco can't meet and exceed. Elenco only installs products that have proven track records of success, such as the Kohler Luckstone shower system. Elenco's installers are factory-trained professionals who know how to get the job done, not only quickly, but flawlessly. Whether you're located in Kansas City, Topeka, Wichita, or a rural town in northeastern Kansas or western Missouri, Elenco will come to you. Go to elencohome.com for more information. That's ALENCO home.com. Again, elencohome.com for more information, and contact them about all your home improvement needs.
Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pre-game coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
Chiefs Kingdom, what is your favorite touchdown? By now, you guys already know that my favorite touchdown is the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. You want spreads? They got it. Over-unders? DraftKings got you covered. Same-game parlays, regular parlays? DraftKings has it, and you need it. And here's the best part. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Alyssa, appreciate you joining the show here. Glad to have the ball knower in the family on the podcast now that we finally got you for the Mizzou bye week. Alyssa, thanks for hopping on with us.
Thanks, guys, for having me. It's so funny because I can tell when Trevor, my husband, has had a take that certain fan bases don't like, because I start getting tweets like, at least there's one real ball knower in the family. And I text him, I'm like, what did you say today? Which fan base did you piss off today? So I don't think I can wear that tag. I think he knows a lot more football than I do, but I will gratefully accept ball knower, at least for today.
And we already talked about this a little bit off camera, but we were talking about how we told Trevor to put in a good word so that we could get you on the show. So
Yeah.
No offense, Trevor, but thank you a lot for letting Alyssa come on.
Shout out to my better half for sure. I'm glad both of us have been able to make an appearance on the podcast.
Oh my gosh. I know this has to probably be the first time we've ever had a husband and wife both on the podcast. I can confidently say that that's the first time we've had a husband and wife pair on the podcast.
People keep asking us like if we're ever going to host a show together. I'm like, I don't think that would be good for the marriage. I think it's good to, separation of church and state. I think those two things are important.
Well, and you're also our first female. Like, obviously, I've been doing the show since it came out, but you're our first female. So that's very exciting to me.
What an honor. I love it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, very excited to talk about Missouri and obviously the disappointing game against Vanderbilt and kind of what that means for them moving forward. But listen, let's just start there with that game against Vanderbilt, a game that had a lot of hype going into it, right? Diego Pavia called himself the Heisman. He's launched a Heisman campaign. Missouri loses their starting quarterback in the middle of it, and they got a freshman quarterback comes in and actually puts up better numbers than Diego Pavia in just a half of football. So a lot to kind of take away from that game, I think. But overall thoughts on Mizzou Vandy from last week?
Yeah, it's funny because as you mentioned what happened with Bo and Zoller's coming in, and I'm always on the sidelines of another SEC game on Saturdays, right? Yeah. So I was on the sidelines of Mississippi State, Texas while that game was going. And we're sort of getting updates every now and again, but, we're really focused on our game. I had heard, though, that Bo had been taken off the field and it didn't look good, obviously, in the immediacy, learning that he may not come back this season. And I immediately thought, man, Missouri's out for the count for the rest of the year. There's no way, right? We had been talking about the two guys at the beginning of the season, and Matt Zollers was not really in the conversation when we were talking about potential quarterbacks in Como this year. But for him to come in and have the type of game that he had, despite it being a loss, Eli Drinkwitz said this after the game. If you're a 2-loss team, you're very much still in the college football playoff hunt. So to have a freshman quarterback come in and play the way that he did on the road in a high pressure SEC matchup, I think bodes so well for Missouri. That being said, I will admit I picked Vanderbilt to win that game. I did like Vandy. I just think they are top to bottom a really talented football team, and it's nothing against Missouri. I'd pick Vanderbilt to beat a lot of teams in the SEC. At the time of recording this right now, I've picked Vanderbilt to go to Austin and beat Texas this upcoming weekend. It was just such an interesting final result to see, having been on the sidelines for the double overtime matchup between those two a season ago in Como, and knowing how close Vanderbilt was to getting over the hump of Missouri being one of those teams that they hadn't been able to catch in a while. Being able to finally catch them in 2025, I think, just further cements where Vandy is as a program. But I know we don't believe in moral victories. Not a lot to hang your head about either for Missouri, especially with how that one went down.
I think the most frustrating part for me is that we did this podcast last week and we talked about the things that Mizzou needed to do to win the game. Mizzou did every single thing that they needed to do to win the game. They completely dominated the clock, the time of possession. They limited Vanderbilt's third down conversions, which I believe they were first or second in the country in. So I think that that's the most frustrating part for me as a Mizzou fan that was boots on the ground there as well, is that you just couldn't get it done. You couldn't score those points when you were in the red zone, which has been a problem for Missouri, I would say, since the beginning of 2024.
Yeah, and if you had told me that Missouri won the time of possession battle going in, I might have said, okay, so did they win the game, right? Based off of the two game plans for both of these programs. I think they were, if not 1 and 2, at least top 3 or 4 entering the weekend when it came to time of possession. I think Missouri was the best in the conference at that point entering Saturday. So yeah, you're right. You do a lot of things right. And unfortunately in the SEC, and such is life in the SEC, sometimes it's not enough, right? And like, I think about my own alma mater, South Carolina, who Missouri got a very resounding victory over earlier in the season. And going back to that game, go into the Oklahoma game, the LSU game, and the Alabama game, one thing that you can point to is not capitalizing on your trips to the red zone and not being able to punch the football into the end zone when you have an opportunity to do so. It sounds so simple, but the team that scores the most points typically wins the game, right? So you have to be able to rely on your offense to do that. Unfortunately, one trip too few for Missouri. That Hail Mary at the end, almost. But, again, going to Vanderbilt was never going to be easy. And you feel like you're playing, and this is no disrespect to Matt Zollers, like you feel like you're playing with an arm tied behind your back when you have any backup quarterback come in that you weren't anticipating being part of the game plan. The offense is naturally going to be different, and you are naturally going to kind of be chasing your tail a little bit. So in the same way that I said Vandy going to Tuscaloosa and losing the way they did almost gave me more confidence in Vandy, I could almost say the same thing about Missouri for how they went on the road, had all this adversity, yet still were in a very close battle with a very good Vanderbilt team. I don't think that their season's over by any stretch.
And I think there's some encouraging things to take from that game. You mentioned Zoller's play. I mean, he played really well in that second half. And to come into a game when really, if you think about Missouri's quarterback situation, he's really their third string quarterback that they're playing at this point because of the Sam Horn injury early on in the year with Bo's injury. A very interesting injury that Bo had, by the way, with like nothing was torn. It was a dislocated ankle, but not being able to tear anything is kind of crazy because there was honestly a similar injury with Cam Scatabo. Had a similar injury as well the very following day, and he had to have a major surgery and he had torn ligaments. But the fact that Bo doesn't need any surgery is very interesting. But Zollers comes in, plays well as their third string quarterback. That playbook probably shrinks a whole lot when you go down to the true freshman quarterback. And I thought that really they did a good job, especially Kirby Moore. I know a lot of people in the comment section are probably already firing off Kirby Moore takes in there. I thought Kirby Moore actually did a really good job calling plays to settle him down and settle him into the game, especially when you have a running back duo like Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts. That makes it easy, right?
Yeah.
But the outlook for for Zollers moving forward in that game? What did you see from him and kind of that half of football that we got to see from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think any time that a quarterback who hasn't had a lot of experience can come in and not look rattled, that's first and foremost the most impressive thing to me. And he did not look rattled by any stretch of the imagination. It's interesting, and I don't know if this is a thing or not, but the way you phrase that, I'm wondering how Missouri fans feel about Kirby Moore. I'm not sure either way, but I've said this for a while. I think Kirby Moore is one of the more underrated coordinators in the country. And I think that it's not talked about enough when Eli Drinkwitz made the decision to give up play calling and bring in a guy like Kirby Moore, how quickly just the Missouri offense in general has improved since then. So if there's a situation like the one we saw Saturday with Zollers coming in and you kind of having to adjust on the fly, Kirby Moore is one of the coordinators, that I would want on my team while you're doing that. So to your point, I mean, the playbook's always going to look different. It's very rare, at least in my experience, that we go to a campus and just to kind of pull the curtain back when we're getting ready for these games on Friday, we always say, hey, hopefully we don't have to use this, but in the case that your starter goes out, what do we need to know about your backup? What does the offense look like? How does it change? How does it not change? And 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some kind of difference. It's very rare that guys say, nope, nothing has to change because both of these guys have the exact same skill set and it's going to look the exact same. So knowing that Zollers clearly was mentally prepared or confident enough to go in there and look the way that he looked and not be the reason why Missouri, got beat by double digits or was not in that game down the stretch. We could have very much gone back and looked at that and said, he choked the game away or he made crucial mistakes that put the game out of reach for Missouri. So For me, that's the most impressive thing. I think a lot of fans at home just don't realize how hard it is for a backup to come in off the bench cold, having no experience in a game that has so much riding on it from the standpoint of the college football playoff, that he had them in that game. Obviously, there's things that you'd like to see him do better and that the offense can always improve on, but it wasn't like, oh no, it's over the moment that he came in.
I think one of the frustrating parts for us looking in the grand scheme of things is that we were playing from behind and you had to attack because there wasn't a lot of time left. Now, the good thing is that you had to attack. You had to try to get out of bounds because the clock, was running down and the boundary corners of Vanderbilt were their weakness. Right. But the problem is Zollers just didn't have enough game experience to make those super accurate passes on those boundary shots. So you feel for him because you see the ceiling that Matt Zollers has. You just hope that he can leave this game and go into Texas A&M with the same amount of confidence because, like you said, Alyssa, he came into that game with confidence. He wasn't scared at all to play. So you just hope that he can watch his game film, see the things that he did wrong, and go into A&M with the exact same amount of confidence.
Yeah, and that confidence is priceless to your point. And he's not the only one. I actually just asked a coach this about a week ago. The Texas-Kentucky game 2 weekends ago, there was a moment where Texas had an opportunity to get out of bounds and they would have, or to stay in bounds and the clock would have kept running. But instead, the young receiver gets out of bounds just in an effort to get the first down and stops the clock. Well, it ended up being so that Kentucky had an opportunity to get the ball back with about 40 something seconds, kick the game tying field goal, and then they go to overtime. And I had a conversation with the coach because sometimes coaches have different techniques for reminding young guys about situational awareness, right? We want to get out of bounds. We want to stay in bounds, whatever it is, to stop the clock, not stop the clock for whatever you need in that situation. Some coaches literally have signs on the sidelines that hold up that say, go down on the field or get out of bounds, whatever it was. So Zoller, all that to say, Zollers isn't alone, right? Like that's just kind of a college football, mark of college football with some of these guys being young. And you even see that obviously in the NFL. But I think the intangibles of what we saw from Zoller Saturday are priceless. And like you said, still a lot of season ahead of Missouri. It's an uphill battle for sure. I mean, you've got a very good Texas A&M team that took it to you a year ago and is on top of the world right now in the SEC. That is going to be very difficult. But all it takes is that one. That's the beauty of playing in this conference, is even when it feels like all is lost, these schedules are so difficult that all it can take is one win for you to get right back in that conversation. So a win over Texas A&M would certainly launch Missouri right back in there.
Well,
We haven't seen that big of an upset yet in the SEC. I don't feel. I feel like most of the teams that have went in, it's been close. You obviously almost had Kentucky beat Texas, like we were talking about, and things like that. But we haven't seen that Vanderbilt beats Alabama, or that South Carolina beats Alabama yet. We haven't really seen that. So close. Y'all almost had them. I was actually pulling for you. Sorry, Tide fans. But yeah, you haven't seen it. So, I mean, the opportunity is there for you to be the one that reaches out and takes that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it, I hadn't even thought about it like that until you just said that. You're right. We haven't had this just absolutely crazy, I can't believe that happened game yet. Yeah. We've been so close. You're right. Like if South Carolina would have beaten Alabama, if Vanderbilt had gone to Tuscaloosa and won, I mean, it would have been like, oh my gosh, here we go. If Tennessee would have beaten Georgia back in week 2 or 3, whatever it was. Instead, they missed that field goal and lose in overtime. It does feel like we're ripe for one of those games for sure, which could be really interesting. And certainly that game's in Como, right? Between A&M and Missouri this year. So maybe that'll end up being the one. I like A&M a lot. I was a big fan of them back in July, and I took my licks for never getting off the A&M train, and everybody always believes in them and they always let us down. But I never got off the Aggie train. I can't get off of it now. Sorry, Missouri fans, but I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened.
Look, it's fair. You're reaping the benefits of being on the Aggie train right now.
You have to.
Well, you're not an underdog if you're picking them to win. If you're picked to win, so you have to pick against the underdog.
That's true. That's very, very true. It's going to be a fun one.
When you look at this schedule, 4 games left, right? Missouri have the bye week, obviously, this week. A&M also coming off of the bye week as well for that game, which also is an interesting wrinkle. Both teams coming off a bye for this matchup. Then you host Mississippi State. You go to Oklahoma. You go to Arkansas to close out the season. Not an easy stretch. Mississippi State's been playing good ball as of late. Oklahoma, I mean, they've had some up and down, like Mateer's injury. He hasn't been the same since he came back from the injury. And then Arkansas can always play spoiler as well. So what are your thoughts on these final 4 as we kind of take a look ahead here? I know there's still a lot of football to be played, but on this stretch here, if you think Missouri needs to get to the college football playoff, I guess, what do you think they need to do? Probably need to win all 4, but these matchups are not easy.
If they want to make the CFP, obviously the percentages kind of speak for themselves, and we can all go punch things in the playoff predictor. And I do think that would tell you at this point that you do have to win out. Unfortunately, the non-conference schedule obviously is on the weaker side with some of the other resumes in the SEC. So you really do need to win out to feel good about it. But that being said, I mean, I think a 2-loss SEC team would be hard to keep out of the playoff no matter who you are or what your strength of schedule is. We talked a little bit about A&M. I think that's going to be a challenge. And unless you've watched Mississippi State closely, which I know there's 16 teams and SEC fans watch like hawks across the league, maybe Mississippi State has kind of fallen by the wayside for some fans to watch. I just had them against Texas this past weekend. They are a good football team. They're just a football team that has not yet figured out how to win. I mean, they had a 17-point lead on Texas, and somehow I'm still stunned at what we saw in Starkville on Saturday night. Somehow they let that slip through their fingers. They took Tennessee to overtime. They were an interception away from potentially beating Florida in the swamp. I mean, you just talk about how close this team has been. So that being said, the record obviously sitting at 0-4 in conference play, not exactly impressive, but if I'm Missouri, that game worries me because you could get caught sleeping some of these guys. And I think Eli Drinkwitz does a really good job of the nameless, faceless opponent for his team and his program. But still, it's the end of the year. You're in the month of November. Everybody's tired. You just don't want a team like that that's very capable of being able to sneak up and beat you at home. Obviously, going on the road to Oklahoma, anything against that defense is going to be tough. Assuming it sounds like Bo Prabula is not going to be back for the rest of the season, you throw out a young quarterback against that defensive front. I don't care who you are. That's going to be a challenge. And then Arkansas, like you said, in a rivalry game between these two, wonky things kind of always happen, it feels like, in this game. If we know anything about Arkansas at this point, is they can score the heck out of the football, right? Like this could be a 40, 50-point game. And so is it the first to 50 who wins that game if you have a sloppy defensive performance. So all that to say, like, I hate to be negative, but I hate the last 4 games for Missouri because I do think it's going to be very tough, and you are going to need some of your best ball down the stretch to get out of this scot-free. But obviously the most important game next up is A&M. If you lose that one, figuring out what the motivation is as far as a playoff gets difficult for the rest of the schedule.
Yeah, you have an opportunity to go downhill fast. So, and it's funny that people talked about going into the season, and that's why I hate talking about preseason schedules and things like that, because everything is just so different. You can't expect how good teams are going to be. And like, obviously, no offense to South Carolina, but didn't live up to the hype there. And then you have teams like Texas A&M playing better than you thought that they would. And like you even said, Mississippi State and Arkansas scoring a lot of points. So, you mentioned the CFP. And the CFP rankings come out, first CFP rankings come out next week, I believe on November 4th. So, who have right now, there's obviously 11 spots that our teams are going to have an opportunity to get that last one going to the highest ranked group of 5 team. Who right now do you see that's in that spot? Do you think is a lock? And who do you think is in that spot that you believe is still going to fall out?
That's a great question. Let me pull up the SEC standings right now so I have everybody in front of me. We were talking about this actually in studio last night. I believe that at this point, and I know I'm going to kind of show my cards here a little bit, I think Texas A&M is a lock. I look at who's in front of them, and like I said, I do think they beat Missouri. I think they beat South Carolina, and then they have Samford. Even if they go on the road and lose to Texas, that's a 1-loss Texas A&M team, right? So you have to imagine that they're going to make it to the playoff. I also think that Ole Miss is a lock at this point. They're a 1-loss team. Obviously, that loss coming on the road to Georgia, but they've got South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State left on their schedule. I imagine they are favored in all 4 of those games, if not very, very heavily. The game, again, at Mississippi State at the end of the year does worry me a bit. The Egg Bowl, again, you talk about crazy environments and things where you never know what could happen. If that's a Mississippi State team that has continued to come so close, but maybe isn't able to get over the hump, would it not be the most college football thing ever for them to figure it out during the Egg Bowl, right? But even that being said, if you lose one of those next 4, that's a 2-loss Ole Miss team. So really, truly based on schedule, I like how it shakes out for both A&M and Ole Miss. Looking at Alabama, obviously, they, I think, look like one of the best teams in the country after the loss to Florida State. But their road, I think, is a little more challenging. Now, their next game, they've got a bye this week. They've got LSU. The interim head coaching bump seems to be a real thing. Right? So with Brian Kelly gone, what does this LSU team look like on the road in Tuscaloosa coming up on November 8th? We saw Alabama drop that game to Oklahoma last year. We saw them lose games that they had no business losing. I think this team is different, but it's not just LSU. It's Oklahoma, and then you got to go to Auburn, and Jordan Hare, we all know, is haunted at the end of the season. So I would say that Alabama is kind of like my contender. I do believe that we have a very high chance of seeing them in the playoff, but I just think the road is a little bit harder. And I would say the same thing about Georgia, mostly because they have to go to Starkville next weekend. They've got Texas and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is not the same Georgia Tech team of the last 10 years. They're a top 10 team in the ACC, maybe the best team in the ACC right now. So the Bamas and the Georgias, I'm sitting there going, all right, if you don't slip up, obviously, I think you can get there, but I'm not prepared to say they're a lock because it's not going to be an easy journey. Vanderbilt has to win against Texas this weekend for them to get there. Their chances plummet if they lose to Texas. But if they beat Texas this weekend, then they can beat Auburn, then they can beat Kentucky, which they should be favored in both of those home games in Nashville. There could be a college football playoff spot riding on their last game of the season at Tennessee in Knoxville. And how amazing would that be between Vandy and Tennessee potentially playing for a spot in the college football playoff? So there's still so many things that could happen. That's the longest answer ever that I've given you here, but I am prepared to say...
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, I do think that I feel the most confident right now in Ole Miss and Texas A&M.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at those programs the way they've played this year. Bama's played really well too. I'm glad you brought them up as well. Like they just kind of flipped a switch after the Florida State game, and Florida State's kind of plummeted as well. So that was all very odd.
So crazy.
Those
still.
week 1 and 2 games and 0 games are all so weird. If like how they all like sometimes it'll be week 10, right? And you'll look back and be like, how did that happen actually? Like those two teams like don't look at all like what they did week 1.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell who to take seriously within the first couple weeks of the season. And they gave us like the impossible task this year of power ranking the teams every single week. And let me tell you, all the first 3-4 weeks, I felt like I was pulling my hair out every single week because you really don't know. And I'm curious to see if over the next few years, people start to follow the scheduling that Missouri had this year versus some of those more high-powered, high-pressure matchups earlier in the season. I don't know what the better answer is. Do you stay at home with some weaker non-conference opponents for the first couple of weeks to kind of get some of those kinks out, build the confidence up like we saw Missouri do? Or do you go get punched in the face week 1, week 2, face some adversity and figure out how to handle it down the stretch in the season? I think there's probably differing opinions out there, but I'm very curious to see with an expanded playoff to 12 teams, we'll see if we go to 16 or more, how that scheduling works moving forward.
I feel like we've already seen some of those games get canceled. I know for sure Illinois canceled their game with us. We were supposed to go on the road to Illinois and on the road to Kansas next season. So, yeah. I mean, that would have been pretty rough for us. So very glad with the 9-game schedule that Illinois and Missouri who were able to work something out. But I do think you already see that happening. I think it's kind of been a little popular in the Big Ten as well. You see, I mean, Indiana's a very good football team. Very good football team, but their non-conference schedule was pretty bad. So, yeah, I'm also interested to see if you've got Alabama being like, never mind, we won't play Florida State anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, for the SEC, it really doesn't make sense to play those games if you don't have to, right? Like you mentioned, 9 conference games. And then for like the South Carolinas of the world, you're keeping the in-state rivalry, which means Clemson. Georgia, obviously, with Georgia Tech, both of those two teams out of the ACC. Those are two very good teams year after year. Now, Clemson, obviously, this year has fallen off a little bit, but historically, that is a matchup that is either going to build your resume or you're going to look at it and go, oh my God, I can't believe we have that game at the end of the year, right? The Central Arkansas, the Louisiana Lafayette's, like those are going to be the type of games that for your non-conference games that you're scheduling those. I'm not sure that we're seeing Texas, Ohio State at the beginning of the season anymore, right? Because you don't have to do that with how tough the rest of your year is going to be.
For sure. Listen, I do appreciate your time. I got one more question. That's probably going to be a large conversation, right? I guess it's pretty loaded when it comes to the coaching carousel. Obviously, SEC teams are making moves. This year's a lot different than it was last year, right? It seems like last year, all these teams wanted to hang on one more year for their coach. And I don't think there was any SEC openings last year, off the top of the head. And now there's a bunch. You got LSU pulling a trigger on a massive buyout. Florida obviously fires their coach. You got Arkansas firing them earlier on in the year. There's some SEC openings. There's some openings in the Big Ten as well. Eli Drinkwitz has been a name that's been thrown out for, I'm pretty sure, every single one of them. Can you say anything to us Missouri fans to kind of ease us a little bit? Because it feels like just everyone's on edge, especially, how the Vanderbilt game went and how everything's going with other coaches signing extensions. I think everyone's just kind of on edge about Eli Drinkwitz and this coaching carousel.
Yeah, I mean, which is understandable, right? You think about what Drink has done for this program over the time that he's been there. He's such a perfect fit for Missouri. And I just love going to visit him and his program out there in Como. I don't know that I can say anything that's going to make everyone feel better because unfortunately it's a double-edged sword, right? When you're in the playoff discussion and when you're in the discussion for being at the top half of the SEC and some of the best recruiting classes, this is also what inevitably comes with it when coaching jobs open, right? I'm not necessarily in the business of talking about current SEC coaches leaving and going to other SEC schools, but I do think it's important to say, same with Lane Kiffin, right? Like it is a compliment to what your program has done and what your program has achieved. I do think that when I think about Missouri and when I think about Eli's time and tenure there, it feels, at least from an outsider's perspective, like any time he has said, hey, we need to change this, or let's go to the Missouri State Legislature and let's do this, that everyone around the program has risen to the occasion to try to do exactly what needs to be done in today's day and age of college football to be successful. So that being said, just like my opinion has been, if you're even if you've got a coach and his seat is warm but not blazing hot, why would you want to go compete in this market?
Yeah.
I would say the same thing about the coaches or the programs that are afraid that their coaches are going to get poached, right? You don't want to end up in this market either, right? So you may have to pony up or whatever that looks like to keep that guy there. I think in the SEC, though, there's a really good understanding of, if you're really happy at home, happy wife, happy life, let's keep whoever that is as happy as possible. And I know that Drink really enjoys Como. I know he really enjoys what he has built there. Obviously, it's gotten better and better as the years go on. I don't have a crystal ball, nor do I have any insider information at this moment. But it's understandable, the tension. I would just say, remember why. And it's because of what has happened out in Como over the last few years.
And Tucker and I were talking about this a little bit before you joined us about the money's not going to be an issue, right? Missouri's already paying their coach more than Billy Napier was being paid. I'm pretty sure more than James Franklin was being paid. So he was already a top 10 paid coach. I don't think money's the issue. Comes down to, does Drink think that he can win at Missouri?
Yeah.
Does he think that he can take the next step at Missouri? I don't know the answer to that. I do know my friend who's a very big Ole Miss fan, her and I have talked about this conversation a lot with both of our coaches being in there. We both kind of see that college football and the parity in college football has kind of made it so coaches are like, man, grass may not be greener going over, somewhere else. You already seen Lane, who left Tennessee and not as the head coach, but left Tennessee to go to USC. I can't remember the exact timeline. But anyways, left Tennessee to go to USC, didn't work out for him there. Then he kind of had to rebuild it. You're taking that chance of going to a program like Florida that's struggled a lot in the past decade. If it doesn't work out, are you finding yourself back at the bottom again? And I think that that's what a lot of coaches are going to have to ask themselves going into this carousel that we've got going on.
I also think that question has changed, and what you said is so true. So many times we sit there and we have the conversation or we talk about it with the coaches and you go, can we win at X place? Is this place a place that we can win championships? And my view on that has somewhat changed, honestly. So, we all have to remember there are so many teams competing to be one of 12 to make it to the college football playoff, right? And only one at the end of the day is a winner. Everybody else is a loser in some way, shape, or form. Everybody else is a loser because only one national championship can stand. So that is one wrinkle in how do you define winning at X program? Is it winning an SEC championship? Is it making it to the playoff to win enough to make it to the playoff? So all that being said, let's say that we're defining winning as let's win enough to make it to be one of those 12 teams. Does that question, as I interpret it, which is Missouri, for example, a big enough brand, can we win here? I don't think the brand power matters that much anymore as it relates to college football. Indiana was just in it as a school known for basketball for so long, right? And what Curt Cignetti has done with the buy-in of Indiana football fans, clearly he can win at Indiana, a place that if you would have said 10 years ago was competing as one of the final 12 teams to go win a college football playoff, people probably would have told you were crazy. Look at what Clark Lee has done in Vanderbilt, right? I don't think anyone would have said 8 years ago that you could win like this at Vanderbilt, right? So, while we talk about the brand names and the blue bloods, obviously that will always carry a lot of weight. But in today's day and age, I really don't think it matters where you are. And if you're at a program that maybe hasn't had that historic success, it doesn't matter. You just got to get a coach in there who knows how to win, and you have to have the resources, which is all easier said than done. But I don't think the name or location of the university matters as much anymore as maybe it used to.
I think that's perfect. Alyssa, thank you so much for your time, for hanging out with us, talking some SEC ball and some Missouri outlook heading into the end of the season. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for having me. Hopefully I get to get out to Como this season. I haven't been there yet, and head to Bud's Barbecue because that's one of my favorite places in the SEC.
There you go. Love to see it. So for Alyssa Lang and Maggie Johnson, this is a Mizzou That's Who. I'll be, I won't be live actually this week because the Mizzou's on a bye week after the game, but I will be live after the Texas A&M game for that post game, but we'll have another podcast for you then previewing that game. So until then, we will talk to you guys next time on Mizzou That's Who.